know that you think you're the coolest one in town, but to me you'll be much cooler when you're 6 feet on the ground. Some of us are crazy, some are smart and brave. Well, it doesn't really matter, we all end up in the grave. All my favorite people are dead. All my favorite people are dead. I'm saying all my favorite people are dead. All my favorite people are dead. All my favorite people are dead. All my favorite people are dead.
Well, hello, breathers.
And welcome back
To another fabulous episode of
All My Favorite People Are Dead. I'm Sue Teresi.
I'm Shannon Butler.
And here we are.
And we're still alive.
And we're kicking. And that means if you're listening, you're kicking.
You're kicking.
Because if you're not kicking and you're listening, we've reached zombie land.
Ooh.
That would be weird, wouldn't it?
I mean, I feel like we're already kind of on the way there.
We are?
Yeah.
We're of reaching zombies? Is it a zombie apocalypse?
We're smartphone zombies now.
Oh my gosh.
It's a whole nother level.
I was in the city last week and I'm crossing, like Fifth Avenue, major intersections, and people they with the thumbs and the thing, and they're walking. I'm like, so you're using your peripheral, and if the person next to you see is walking, you walk. That's not going to stop the car. They don't look up.
No,
they don't look up to see if there's a vehicle.
Right.
So we've reached the zombie apocalypse.
We have. We're already there.
We're there already.
We're just not eating brains.
Okay.
Our brains are being eaten by social media?
But you know what I would have to eat?
What?
Grains.
That's right, because you're a vegetarian.
Because I'm a vegetarian. I can't eat brains. I'd have to eat grains.
Oh, Lord.
I know. That was funny.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know what I would eat. I can't eat zombies. I can't eat other people.
No.
I don't know. I'd have to eat like zombie vegetables or something. I don't know.
All right.
Anyway.
And on that note,
okay.
So we're going to talk about a dead guy today.
Okay, let's talk about a dead guy today.
This week I decided to dig back into my college years.
Okay.
Which actually wasn't really that long ago, but...
Yeah, that's nice. I don't remember my children's college years. Let's put it that way.
So, I became totally fascinated by this story.
Okay.
When I was a student at SUNY New Paltz.
I heard of that place.
Yeah, SUNY New Paltz.
Go SUNY.
And then I carried on with the research into my graduate work at SUNY Albany.
I heard of that place.
Right? Yeah.
Go SUNY.
So, I have to say, SUNY schools, they are awesome. I really feel like I connected really closely to, especially the history professors at both New Paltz and Albany.
Yeah. One of my kids went to SUNY Albany also, and one of my kids went private. I, however, went to CUNY's. I went to a CUNY, City University, because it was there. And,
that was there.
And it was there. And you know what? I think I got a very... fine education.
Yeah.
I know my ABDs. So, I think I'm okay.
Yeah. So when I was doing this research, I got really hooked into understanding the world of a 19th century drug dealer.
Alrighty then.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I only know modern drug dealers.
And the grandfather of a future president.
Oh my gosh. Wow. This is getting juicy.
It is a really juicy story.
Ooh,
yeah.
I want to hear more.
So we're going to talk about Warren Delano Jr. today.
Okay.
Drug dealer whose grandson would be FDR.
Okay, so if you're a drug dealer, your grandson can turn up to be president.
Yeah.
Only in this country.
Yes, and this particular world of drug dealing was never frowned upon, certainly here in the States.
Okay.
So anyone who was in this business and made a fortune and it came back to the States and prospered, and nobody ever questioned.
It was okay.
Well,
like Coca-Cola, wasn't that like all full of cocaine? And
this is a different matter. The Chinese fought this.
Oh, opium.
Yeah.
Okay.
Pretty intensely.
Yeah, well, opium. Yeah. People went to war over this nonsense.
Yeah. And it's really funny. Back when I was a park ranger at the Roosevelt estate, and when I would say, oh, by the way, FDR's mother's side of the family made their money in drug dealing, a lot of people would go, oh, yeah, but it was legal. No. There was nothing legal about this business.
About opium.
It was not legal, what they were doing.
There were opium dens, opium wars.
Yeah.
This was a whole big
huge thing, yeah. So I dug into this research pretty heavily. I even went out to other archives. I remember taking a trip out to Massachusetts, to Fairhaven, to dig into the Delano papers out there. This is how nerdy I am. I stayed at the Delano family home, which was now a bed and breakfast.
Oh, cool.
And I stayed in the Sarah Delano Roosevelt bedroom.
That's nerdy. That's very cool.
I was geeking out pretty bad.
How many times have I asked you, let's sleep in Lizzie Borden's house?
I know. Well, yeah.
I want to sleep in the bed she hacked up her mother,
You're a nerd like me. So
absolutely. Yeah. I own it.
Yeah.
That's why we get along. We're both big nerds.
Exactly. So I really dug into the research on this guy and had eventually published the research that I did. So I thought I'd break it back out and talk about it here today.
I don't know anything about this.
Okay, this is a whole new thing for you.
Yep.
Okay.
And I know Fowler.
Yeah,
probably more than I know anybody else. And that's all I got.
All right. So this is going way back. We're going deep into the early 19th century here and mid 19th century. So Warren Delano Jr. was born in 1809 in Fairhaven, Massachusetts.
Okay.
His family had been in Massachusetts pretty much since the beginning of Massachusetts. The first Delano to come over here was actually a Frenchman named Philippe Delanois.
It was Delanois.
Yeah, they anglicized the name, like many names over there.
Like Delano was so anglicized. Delanois.
Delanois. He came over in 1621. So, like, the Mayflower comes over in 1620, right? Philip is on the second boat to come over, the Fortune.
Oh.
So they're in the beginning of the colony.
Okay.
Warren's father, Warren Sr., was into shipping. So he was on a ship.
Is that with a P or with a T?
P.
Okay. Took you a minute.
2 P's. I'm like,
took you a minute.
He did some shitting too, but.
Okay, just checking. I wasn't sure I heard you
Everybody
correctly.
poops too.
Yeah. That's what makes the world go round. That's what we all have in common. You heard it here first.
That's right.
Everyone poops. Just in case you were wondering.
I was trying to be more academic today, but I guess that's not.
With me? Really? Really? Okay. Have we not met?
No. All right. So, young Warren Jr. showed an interest in sailing, as his father had before him, when he was a little boy. He grew up in Fairhaven, went to the Fairhaven Academy, which was just down the street from his father's home on Walnut Street in Fairhaven. Beautiful area, by the way. As a young boy, he witnessed a very nervous night in 1814, June 13th, 1814. The British raider ship came close to the harbor, and the town's militia actually had to defend. This is like during the War of 1812, right? Which is it goes longer than 1812, obviously. But this event was terrifying to the whole village and little Warren witnesses as a kid.
Okay.
And then a year later, his father was actually captured by a British ship.
Oh.
Yeah, he was at sea doing his business, and he was actually captured twice by British ships, and he actually spent time on a British prison ship, which is a horrible way to spend time. Yeah. So little Warren Jr. must have felt
a little traumatized
by
that, right?
Traumatizing, yeah, a little bit. But still, he was fascinated in sailing and ships in general. Okay. Now, luckily, his father would come home from his time trapped on a British prison ship, and he decided to take his business off the seas and focus more on land work.
Can't blame him.
I don't.
You're captured twice at sea, you become a land lover.
Absolutely. Now, Warren graduated from the Fairhaven Academy in 1824, and he decided to head off and learn the business of finance. He actually went off to Boston, where he worked for an importing organization called Hathaway and Company. He was 15 years old when he's doing this, so he's a kid, just a little kid getting into business.
No child labor laws.
Yeah, no child labor laws back then. Absolutely.
Imagine that. I was 15. I think I worked at McDonald's.
I worked at McDonald's for like a week.
Yeah,
I did.
Yeah,
when I was 15.
Yep. Yeah. So I think it's
everybody
in the handbook.
You have to. Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, he took to business right away, and in 1828, he was looking after his father's interest in his whaling endeavors. He was actually into whaling. Most guys in that area were.
Yeah.
Right. Now, he ended up coming to New York City and working at Goodhue and Company in New York City, a trading firm.
Okay.
And then at that point, at the age of 24, in 1833, he decided he was going to sail for China and get involved in the China trade.
Okay.
He was 24 years old.
Random. I think I'll go to China.
I'm going to go to China. Well,
okay.
China, it was a big business at this time. The Chinese, it's important to know that America had developed a passion for tea from China, right?
Okay. Yeah.
You got the Boston Harbor,
right.
So
the tea party, yeah.
They love tea,
we
right?
like tea.
But as far as China's concerned, we don't have anything they want. China's got, they see themselves as a self-sufficient country. They don't need anything from anybody else. Okay. And America really didn't have anything for them. We started off with the fur trade with them for a little bit, but that was kind of died off by 1820 or so. Americans then entered into the Turkish opium market.
Oh,
yes.
Okay.
So they would pick up Turkish opium, sail into China, right, up into Canton. The Chinese had a very limited area where they would allow foreign traders to come in. Canton was pretty much a tiny little city.
Yeah.
They would come in, and before they got to the city of Canton, they would stop their boats on the river, and they would wait for the Chinese Hongs, these merchants, other drug dealers essentially, to come to their ships, purchase the opium, take the opium back onto the shore, and in exchange for the opium, they would give, gold, silver, and so forth. And then the Americans would then head up to Canton with their gold and silver and go, what opium? We have no opium. No opium here.
Oh, gee.
And then they would take their gold and silver into Canton and buy tea, silks, furniture, paintings, stuff like that for sale back in the States. So that was the business. Yeah.
Who knew?
Huge business. So
I bought Turkish taffy.
Turkish taffy, yeah.
I've bought that once or twice.
Sure, but never Turkish opium? No?
Not really,
Okay.
no. I don't know.
Right.
I think I've had Turkish coffee.
Now, from what I understand, Turkish opium was not the good stuff. The good stuff was made in India, but the British controlled India. So the British were the big dealers in opium.
It wasn't Chinese opium.
No. It was made in India and Turkey.
Who knew? I thought it was a Chinese thing.
No, the Chinese wanted it. It was coming from India and Turkey.
Huh.
Yeah, and of course, British they ruled India. So
Right. That was colony. Yeah.
So Turkey was the only place that Americans could go in and get the opium,
get drugs,
which was not as high quality as Indian opium. I don't know the difference because I've never done it. But
opium?
Anyway,
No. I don't think I know anybody who has. I hope not.
Well, now
Popular,
what's interesting is that we have opiates, right?
Opioids.
Opioids.
Oh, is that the? Oh, I never thought of that.
It's the same thing.
Opioids.
Yeah. So
the opioid epidemic.
We have an opioid epidemic.
Is that a derivative of opium?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I never put the two together.
China does not, right? Because in China, if you get addicted to this stuff, you get fucking shot. Here, we've got a huge opium. So it's interesting how the tides have turned a century later. China doesn't have an opioid addiction. We do.
That's messed up.
Yeah, right? It's really weird.
I never thought of it that way.
Yeah. So anyway, in the 19th century, China did have an opioid addiction. And it was a cheap drug that everybody from the poor to the royalty were addicted and dying from this shit. It was terrible. It was destroying their economy.
Oh.
So, Warren...
Like it is now. Yeah, pretty much like the opioids are now.
Exactly.
Huh.
So
what have we learned, folks? The more things change, the more they stay the same, and history repeats itself.
Exactly. So anyway, Warren gets into this. He's 24 years old. He's sailing over to a country where they don't speak his language. He's sailing over dangerous seas, and he's like, I'm going to make a killing in this industry. Now he gets over there, Canton, where the traders are allowed. By the way, the Chinese referred to these foreign traders as fengui, which means foreign devils.
But they'll still take your money.
They'll still take your money. In 1834, Warren writes home to his cousin Joseph. He says, I hope for the best, and even if I should not happen to make anything on this voyage, it will not ruin me. I shall be only 25 in July. So he's writing home these letters saying, I'm going to make some money. It's going to be great.
And if I don't, I'm young enough to screw up that it won't matter.
Exactly. Now, he joins the world of Russell Sturgis and Company, which is a small company.
Russell Sturgis? They make chocolate?
No, Russell Sturgis and Company.
Oh, I thought you meant chocolate. You had my interest.
Sorry.
Anytime, chocolate over opium.
Okay, yes.
Just saying.
Agreed.
Okay.
Now, foreigners, people like Warren, did not speak...
They're such a good band.
Okay.
I think I saw them in
You're right.
concert.
It is a good band.
I saw them in concert many years ago.
People like Warren... did not speak Mandarin, nor were they allowed to learn Mandarin. As a matter of fact, any Chinese residents that were caught teaching foreigners Mandarin,
language,
they would be in big trouble. Yeah, so they were not allowed
to teach them.
No.
Okay.
Now they lived in this tiny little district of Canton, which was called the 13 Factories. And basically, what it was were these long buildings that kind of stretched back from the river, and each building was like a country's household. So you'd have all these different companies from each country living in these factories. So the Americans had their own factory, the Dutch had a factory, the British had the French, So he'd be mingling in these cramped quarters with other members of his company, living there, working there, writing home. It was kind of, days were spent, tasting teas, weighing cargo, planning for their next shipment, and nights were spent devoted to, drinking and...
Opium.
No, they did not partake, because they knew what the shit was doing.
You have to smoke your own stash.
No, exactly. They're playing cards, music, He's right. Clearly, Warren is a family man, and it's funny because I've read a lot of his letters home. Like I've read a ton of his letters, and he's very lonely. And what's interesting, he's also very concerned.
He's home. He's writing to his folks.
Yeah, he's writing back home to his folks in Fairhaven.
His parents, but say he doesn't have a family. Like he's not married yet.
He's not married yet. No.
Okay.
He's got a lot of sisters, and I found this great letter where he writes home to a cousin of his saying, if Papa is not taking care of my sisters properly, I'm going to send home money so that you can hire a tutor so that they can be educated in the arts and music and literature.
So he's not a bad guy.
No, he's a good guy. He's just in a bad business. Yeah.
Okay.
So
he's a good, nice drug dealer.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, that clears it up.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Just check. Okay. He's a church going on Sunday drug dealer.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
That's not personal.
Now, speaking of church going, there's a lot of other, besides the drug dealers that are over there, there's also a lot of missionaries. I found a family from Albany that was over there the same time Warren was, the Van Rensselaers. They're over there missionary. They're trying to convert the Chinese to be good Christians,
Oh, gee.
So it's a really weird mix of drug dealers and missionaries, and people like Warren, they're not interested in the Chinese way of doing things. They're not interested in learning the society or changing their situations or their circumstances. He's there on business. Yeah, that's all he is.
Okay.
He wants to make his fortune and he wants to go home. That's it.
Okay.
So Warren was made partner of the big company that he was in December of 1834, like 5 months after he got there. So he's clearly doing good work as far as his firm is concerned. He wrote home to his cousin again. He said, my present position is one quite satisfactory to me. And if business flows into our hands, as we hope, I shall make a reasonable fortune in the course of a few years. So he was very optimistic that he was going to make a ton of money and then get the hell out of there.
Okay.
So, now while he's in China, Warren found time to write home to his family. Like I said, he was very concerned with the well-being of his sisters. He was also incredibly lonely. He's trying to convince his little brothers to come to China with him. Yeah. His little brother Franklin, who is actually FDR's namesake. So anyway, he couldn't convince Franklin to come here. Because Franklin was already working in New York City.
So he had a job, and he's like, the heck with this.
He's like, I don't want to go to China.
I'm not going there. Please send money and egg drop soup.
Yeah, exactly. However, he does convince his youngest brother, Edward, to come over. Or Ned. Everybody called him Ned.
Ned.
So Ned comes over in 1841. But just as Ned is getting ready to sail to come to China, war breaks out.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. You see, it's during this time that efforts were being made by the Chinese to stop this opium dealing. Just quit it.
Is this the Opium Wars, or am I ahead of myself?
So we're getting into the Opium Wars, yeah. So they, in Canton, the Chinese government hired a new commissioner, Commissioner Lin Zexu. Now, Lin Zexu, I should make it very clear, like I said before, opium it's not legal as far as the Chinese are concerned, right?
It's a drug.
Right, it's a drug. Lin Zexu comes in, and he comes in with an iron fist. And he's basically threatening death and removal of all comforts for the foreign visitors if they continue on with their opium trading, right?
Zero tolerance.
So Commissioner Lin Zexu finally cracks down. He removes all the Chinese servants from the factories. When these Americans and British and French traders are living in these factories, all their servants, all their cooks, or everything are Chinese, right?
Makes sense.
So Lin Zexu says, I'm taking all of your Chinese workers away from you. So now Warren is actually working as the cook in his company's factory. And he's like, he's writing letters home going, I don't know how to cook. I don't know what I'm doing. I got to take care of people. They took away
I don't know how
service.
to make fun. I can't cook this stuff.
Right,
You're
exactly.
getting a hot dog.
So Warren's firm officially surrendered their opium supply in June of 1839 because the commissioner had pushed them to the limit where they're like, we're gonna kill anybody you're involved with. We're gonna, take away whatever you've got here, make life miserable for you, surrender your opium supply, and we'll call it a day, right? So they're not thrilled about this, but they do it, right?
They have no choice.
Right. Now the British traders were quite angry that the Chinese were trying to tell them what they could and could not trade.
Okay.
And also taking away their supplies without any repayment, right? So the bulk of the British firms packed up and left China in protest. They were pretty much hoping that this would bring trade to a total stop, and that this would do severe financial damage to the Chinese economy. So it's basically, they're basically hoping that the Chinese will just go, oh, yeah, no, come back. You can sell opium again. It's fine. No.
No. Well, why would they do that?
No, exactly. So Warren understood the physical and financial damage that opium caused. And he admitted in a letter, here's another letter home. He says, I do not pretend to justify the prosecution of the opium trade in a moral and philanthropic point of view. But as a merchant, I insist that it has been a fair, honorable, and legitimate trade. That was his thought, yeah.
Of course.
He also went on to say that it is liable to no further or weightier objecting than in the importation of wines, brandies, and spirits into the United States. So he's saying that opium is the
equivalent of alcohol.
Yeah, right.
Right. Yeah. A glass of wine. Some, I don't know, is it cute? Bags of opium.
Some rum. Yeah.
Same thing.
Yeah,
it's like a cocktail.
That's what he said.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, what is he going to say?
Exactly.
What is he going to say? No, it's an addictive, kill you drug. What is he going to say?
No. So the British decided to come back with a vengeance. They're not taking this thing lying down. They come in and the First Opium War breaks out in 1839. They bring their navy, they bring their army, which is terrifying because the British army and navy at that time is the most powerful in the world, right? So Warren experienced violence in the streets in Canton, head first. He saw it all. Just as his little brother Ned is sailing into port in 1841. Ned comes in and he's like, what the fuck's going on here? It's crazy. Ned writes these very detailed journals when he's in China, which I've read through all of them. And he wrote that like pretty much his first day sailing into China, he had kind of landed at this scene of a battle that had just taken place and was like picking up like artifacts as like little keepsakes, things like that. And I'm like, it's this fucking battlefield, dude. So
what is that, a glass eye?
Yeah, right, yeah.
Look at that.
Oh, a bayonet.
Oh, you won't be wearing them sneakers anymore. Thank you very much.
So basically the British Army and Navy were bullying, and by bullying I mean killing the Chinese, So in August of 1842, the British Navy and Army overpowered the Chinese army, and they won a major victory, and eventually were able to take over, gain sovereignty over Hong Kong, which was a huge loss to China, and it gave them even more trading opportunities. Right? By 1843, Warren had been in China for about 10 years, and he was starting to kind of get the desire to start a family. Right?
Makes sense.
So, since he'd become a major partner in a major firm.
He's in his 30s now, right?
Yeah, he's in his 30s,
okay,
right? So it's time to get back home, and it's now his brother's there, his brother's operating things, so he's like, all right.
I'm done here.
Let me go. So, he comes back to America in 1843, and like in a hot second, he marries and falls in love with this girl, Catherine Lyman. And he's like, okay, great, let's get married, let's go back to China. Right? He can't stay away from China for very long.
Oh, now he wants to go back. I thought he wants to go
back. He's going back.
Now he's going back with the new woman.
With the wife.
Oh, yeah. Okay. That's good plan.
So,
yeah,
sailed back to China in 1844.
And she's on board with this.
She's like, sure, what the hell?
Why not?
Yeah.
What's the worst that can happen?
Women were not allowed in Canton.
Women were not allowed?
They were not allowed there.
Even
foreign
Asian women? Oh,
foreign women. So she actually... I was
going to say, without women, that must have been a scary town.
Right. No, they ended up building a mansion outside of Canton.
So she couldn't go in the city.
Right, yeah. So they live in this area called Macau. Macau is where I believe it belonged to the Spanish. It wasn't something that the Chinese owned, actually. Okay. So, but it allowed him.
He and the new wife are there.
They're there. They have their first child over there in 1844. They have a baby named Susan. Sue. Oh, no, not Suzanne. Susan.
She spelled it wrong, yeah.
Anyway, however, in August of 1846, things started falling apart.
Again.
Yeah. Little baby Susan died.
Oh.
Their second daughter that they had in China, Louise, starts to is born prematurely, and she's very sickly.
Oh.
Letters Edward received from his brother clearly show that Warren was starting to get tired of China now. He's back. Yeah, he's tired. He's like, all right, it's time to get out of here.
My cat does that. My cat stands by the door. I want to go in the room. I want out. I want to go in. Yeah. I want to make up your mind.
That's what's going on here. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Warren says, I'm worried for the physical and mental health of my wife because the children are not doing well. So he's like, that's it. We're gonna pack up and we're gonna leave. I've made my fortune. I don't need to stay here anymore.
I don't see the reason why he took the wife to go back
at
all.
I don't know. I think he was nervous that business was not being operated well because he wanted to oversee it himself. And he left his brother in charge, and he was a little nervous about it.
Freak?
Yeah, he might have been. Yeah.
I'll go back. No, I'll go home.
So he decides to sail home, and he comes to New York.
Okay.
Warren's main focus now was to ensure the happy and healthy environment of those around him while maintaining a place in high society. Now, of course, the first thing they do is find a suitable home in New York City. They ended up living, Franklin, his brother, who is in New York City, had a place in Lafayette Square. The famous Colonnade Row. Have you ever seen Colonnade Row?
Probably.
Well, it's much smaller. There's only a small portion of it left today.
Where is it?
Lafayette Square.
Lafayette Square.
Yeah. I don't.
It's not ringing any bells, but okay. I must have been there 1,000 times, but I don't know where I am.
This huge colonnade row was designed in the early 1830s, I believe, and there's just a small portion of it left. It's still there. A little bit of it's still there, and had these beautiful columns along. It was a huge building. It had beautiful townhouses inside of it, and the Vanderbilts lived there, the Astors lived there, and Frederick Delano lives there. So
rich part of town.
Yeah. So Warren Delano moves in with his family. Now, beginning in 1847, Warren decided he wanted to, like all New York City dwellers, move up to the Hudson Valley. Right? Once you're in the city long enough, you're like, okay, I got to get out to the country. I got to get up the Hudson.
You're telling me?
Yeah, you know how it is.
Moving on up.
Exactly.
Like the Jeffersons. Yeah, I mean, that was exactly my story.
That's it. So that's what Warren does, only he's got a little bit more money to spend than you do.
So I was in the wrong line of work.
Right,
I wasn't drug dealing. I was teaching inner
exactly.
city children. Silly me.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, he comes up and he rents a mansion just outside of Newburgh, right? And then by 1851, he purchased land in the area known as Balmville, just north of Newburgh. And he buys this land, this house, this beautiful estate, and he hires the prominent architects Andrew Jackson Downing and Calvert Vall to design and improve the property.
Who else?
It was beautiful.
Yeah, that's who I hired.
Right?
To build my house.
And he fills the house with his Chinese treasures, his paintings, his furniture.
His drugs?
No drugs.
No
drugs.
opium?
Okay,
just
opium.
checking.
Now, through most of the 1850s, Warren stretched his financial interests, including land investments in New York City, copper-producing lands in Tennessee, iron mines in Maryland, and railroads. But there's a financial panic in 1857. His clipper ships, which took goods all over the world, were starting to fail. Along with his other business endeavors. He really stretched himself pretty thin with all of his...
Too much.
Yeah, too much.
The tan and too many...
Yeah.
Too many, yeah.
So in 1858, he started to lose hope in his business, and he decided, you know what? I better go back to China.
Naturally.
Right? Because that's where the money's at.
I know at least that's steady business.
I could make money with drugs.
Yeah, okay.
So
he goes back to China.
So he goes back to China. Now he
can't stay away.
He can't.
You know, that's a problem with visiting China. An hour later, you want to go and visit it again.
Okay, if you say so.
Do you get that joke? See that? Okay.
No.
That's the problem with eating Chinese food. An hour later, you're hungry again. Did you see what I did there?
Okay.
It's not funny if I have to explain it, but
I'm sorry.
that's okay. Because Jews know a lot about Chinese food.
No, I know. It's true.
Do you want to know why? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, do you want to know Jewish women eat so much Chinese food?
Why?
Because wonton spelled backwards is not now.
Nice.
Yes.
Nice.
Okay.
I like that. Okay.
Yes, we do. We do. On Christmas, we will be coming for you.
Okay, fair enough. Now, he arrived in Hong Kong in March of 1860 and was eager to pick up business again. Didn't take long. He's got all the connections. He's got friends in all the factories and everything, so he just does his thing. Now, once again, while he's over there, it's taken a long time to make money, especially as the American Civil War starts to break out.
Oh, that little thing.
Yeah.
That can complicate
things are a little tricky, a little complicated over here. So he's like, why is this taking so long to make my money? So he decides, I'm awfully lonely. He writes home to his wife, Catherine. He's like, you know what, honey? Pack up the kids, come to China. So
does she?
She does. She packs up the entire family, gets on a boat.
Because it worked so well the first time she was there.
Right, yeah, right.
She had such a positive experience that she wants to go back for more.
Yeah, let's go back for more.
Yeah, that sounds good.
So there's a great journal that she keeps on the trip over. It takes 126 days to sail from Newburgh.
From New York to China, 126 days.
126 days. And she kept this very detailed diary. It's in the collections of the FDR Library Museum. And I read through it. It's, there are times where they're so bored. There are times where they're like, so hot because they just want to rip off all their clothes. She's writing, there's seasickness, people are vomiting off the side of the, it's just.
All these months at sea.
Yeah.
Just to get to China. Yeah.
So on October 31st, Halloween, they finally make their way to Hong Kong. And, meanwhile, Warren had built this estate called Rose Hill. in Hong Kong. So they've got this lovely mansion.
So he plans on staying there. He's building.
Yeah. He's staying there for long enough to make his fortune, which could take a while. So he wants to make sure the family's comfortable. They've got ponies, they've got carriages, tutors, they got gardens.
They have ponies,
right? Everything they could possibly need.
Okay.
Little FDR's mom, Sarah Delano Roosevelt, grew up here. She was spending a lot of time there, at least a couple of years anyway. So things seem to be good. They have a couple more kids over there. Frederick is born there in 1863. Laura, the youngest daughter, is born there in 1864. And things seemed fine until one of their children, Philip, took ill in 1864. Once again, kids are getting sick. Warren goes, well, maybe China's not the best place for them. So in 1864, Warren says we should send the children back home to the States. So, since the family is all in China, he sends them to his father's house in Fairhaven, Massachusetts. His father, Warren Delano Sr. So,
just the kids.
Yeah. Now, for the next few years, the family is kind of scattered all over the world. Some people are in China. Some of his older daughters marry members of the other members of his company that he's working for over there, so they stay in China. And then he says, well, maybe we should get back home. I've made my fortune again. Let's get out of here. So he's got people scattered all over the place. Then he sends some of his children to schools in Europe, like Sarah. She spends time in Germany. She's over there studying. It's kind of like a wild mix for a while. But by the 1870s, Warren is back home in Newburgh at Algonac. That's the home that they had built. And Catherine, his wife, is there too. Everything's kind of good. They live a very happy, wealthy life in those later years.
Okay.
Catherine, his wife, died in 1896. And then Warren died a very wealthy man, surrounded by a loving family and a respectable reputation, on January 17th, 1898. He's buried in a beautiful vault that was built by Richard Morris Hunt in the cemetery in Fairhaven, Massachusetts. It's lovely, right? So the money that he made from his drug dealing would benefit not only the family, right, but the communities around them.
Okay.
So in 1885, the Delanos used some of their money to build a hospital for children on East 111th Street in New York City. In 1916, one of his children, Annie Delano Hitch, donated land to the city of Newburgh for the recreational use. It's known as Delano Hitch Park today. It's still there. Sarah Delano Roosevelt, right?
Yeah.
The mother of the President of the United States. Yeah. She built the Hyde Park Free Library in the town of Hyde Park, amongst many other things, donated to several charities.
Good did come out of the drug money.
It really benefited the people of this country, certainly, in many different ways. Later on, during FDR's presidency, one of the journalists who absolutely despised him had said, the only reason this man can run for, third and fourth term is because of his mother's drug money, right?
Well,
so
that hit a nerve.
Well,
I mean,
it was interesting. Franklin had, when Japan was invading China, right, for World War II, FDR was like, well, we have to support China. Nobody knows more about China than I do because my family's strong connections there. So he's blowing it up at this whole thing. Years later, after FDR's death, one of his distant cousins wrote a book about the Delano family in America. And in it, he doesn't mention anything about Warren's drug dealing in China. What he says is that Warren Delano was bringing opium from China to America to help wounded soldiers in the Civil War.
Yeah, because it's medicinal.
That never fucking happened. I searched in vain for any kind of proof that he was, helping out with the Civil War. No. And even if
how would that help? I can't picture it. Even for medicinal purposes.
Even if he had, that doesn't explain the fact that he's making his original fortune in the 1830s. There's no fucking war going on. There's no war.
Right.
He's over there. He's doing his thing. No, none of that was true.
So
none of it.
Sugarcoat lie.
Yeah. So, so he was, a drug dealer and a family man, and donated to his world around him. But the fact of the matter is, it was a nasty business to be in. Years after he had left his company, Russell Sturgis and Company, one of the other members of the company was writing to all the guys who were a member of this company, all the partners, and he said, "Hey, wouldn't it be great if we wrote a company history and published a book about our company's history? And Warren's like, nah.
Maybe you want to leave this chapter
Let's
out.
not.
Yeah.
That's
I mean, you can't be proud of it. I mean, look how I wonder how he felt, knowing that it's blood money. I mean, it's...
And one of
not a good... I mean, how many drug dealers, whether then or now, can you really feel,
Yeah.
You sell drugs, you buy your mom a mansion, you buy your dad a Ferrari and all that, but...
Yeah.
Really?
And Ned Delano, when his brother came back home to marry, right, Ned decided to go to India. In his diaries. It's very, like I said, he wrote very detailed diaries. And Ned went to India and he went into a bazaar and he actually decided to visit an opium den to see it up close and personal. Right? So here's this young man, he's like, let's see what this stuff is doing.
Okay, what do you think it's doing?
And in his diary, he wrote that he found all these people just lying there, like dead to the world from the effects of it. And he said, I walked up to one of them who was corpse-like, and I took the pipe from his hand. But he offered no resistance. But he watched with his eyes as I moved the pipe from side to side.
Because he couldn't move. He was catatonic.
Yeah. And I'm like, you fucking asshole.
And he thought this was okay?
And he's just like, that's interesting. And he grabs his shipment and he goes. He's just like...
So he sees the effect.
He sees it.
That it's corpse-like, that these people are catatonic.
Yeah.
And he's okay with it.
He's like, okay.
Let's see what this does.
This is wild. So
he had to turn a blind eye. Otherwise, he would have had... Either you get out of the business when you see the havoc it's wreaking, or you turn a blind eye.
Which is what he did. Yeah. Yeah. Wild.
I don't know.
So it's a part of history that I think a lot of people, just don't know anything about. And I found it fascinating.
Did she ever, Sarah, do you know if she was ever vocal about it or denied it, her father's dealings?
I don't think she ever talked about those sort of things.
I mean, how can, if your father's a big drug dealer like that?
She saw her father as the loving family man that he was.
Which I'm sure he was.
He was.
When he wasn't dealing drugs.
He did, he was, when he came back home, he was an abolitionist, right? He supported rights for Black Americans here in the States. He supported women's rights. He was a firm believer in giving that women had proper education.
Equal, so fair and equal.
Yeah. But for some reason, it's just, I don't know if he was like, is that an atonement for the things you were doing, to make, I don't know. But it's interesting. Yeah. Yeah, very interesting fellow. So he, in his later years, all of his daughters were getting married and moved on. It's kind of funny, his, Sarah, one of her first, suitors, first guy, because Sarah was beautiful, a beautiful young woman, tall, gorgeous. One of her first suitors that came across was Stanford White, who I think
the architect. Did we do something on him? Okay.
So Stanford White, the crazy redhead with the wild mustache.
Oh yeah.
Came along and he's like, "I love your daughter," and Warren Delano was like, "That's not fucking happening," because you could see this guy's wild and no.
Really, the drug addict, the drug dealer is judging the wild
architect,
guy. Yeah. Okay.
So,
it's like when you got a rock band and the alcoholic is having problems with the cocaine head, or whatever, or something like. Well, I'm a heroin addict. And I don't like your cocaine problem. I don't get it.
Yeah.
Alrighty then.
But when James Roosevelt came along, now this James Roosevelt, who marries Sarah Delano, right? He was a much older widower, right? He's twice her age. He comes along, and Warren Delano was like, I don't know about that. You sure you want to marry this old fart? And he's like, and he's a Democrat. And Warren Delano said, well, not all Democrats are horse thieves. All horse thieves are Democrats.
Oh, geez.
One of his famous
quotes.
Wow. So but then he realized that James Roosevelt was actually a real sweetheart. He's like, all right, you can, if you're in love with him, you can marry him.
Okay,
Sarah's like,
so
I
he's
am.
okay.
So so
that guy passed.
Yeah, he passed.
Alrighty.
But yeah, really, really interesting character. So
truth is stranger than fiction. You can't make this stuff up.
No, you can't.
Fascinating history.
Good. You learned something new today.
I learned that if you're a drug dealer, your grandson can grow up and be president of the free world.
Absolutely.
So there you go.
There you go, folks.
God bless us all, everyone.
So that was my early college fascination, and I'm still fascinated by it. But I thought I would share with everybody today.
Thank you for that. We all,
you're welcome.
On behalf of all the breathers, thank you for that.
You're welcome.
It's good. No, it's good to know the history of our leaders.
Yeah.
I didn't know much about them.
There you go.
What do I know?
You know a lot.
Oh, thanks.
You
okay,
do.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Now you know more.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
boy.
All right, folks.
Well, thank you, breathers,
Yes.
for listening to yet another weird, fun, crazy episode of
All my favorite people are dead.
See you soon.
Bye, breathers.
Some are smart and brave, well, it doesn't really matter. We all end up in the grave. All my favorite people are dead. All my favorite